Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for coming on back to the channel. Sorry it's been so long since we've done a video. We've got some new features to talk about in Ideamaker. So it's December 26, 2018. This is talking about Ideamaker 3.3.0. I know they did a release. This is probably a good month or so old. I like to give it time to really soak in, and I like to play with it before I do a video. And I know they did a release and then they did a quick patch right after that, and I kind of know that that's coming just from a past experience. I know they put something out, especially a big one, and then they'll do a quick patch because something got missed, or tweak and tune a little thing, just something tiny. So they did that, and it was negligible, but so it's a good opportunity to sort of wait and see. So anyway, let's I want to dive into this. This is like the third or fourth time I've done this video, and you don't know it because you're only seeing the final, but I get too long-winded. So I'm going to pare this down. We're going to keep it short and sweet. We're going to talk about the facts and what's important to me. Okay, let's so printer settings, right? So in Ideamaker, right, you set up your printer, you tell it everything pretty much about the physical aspects of your machine. They haven't really changed a whole lot about this. They've added another advanced tab, and they've given you the ability to import and export printer settings, which is kind of cool. And if you got a friend that just bought a new Ender 3 and you're getting good results, and you can export your printer settings, your filament settings, and give them a slice template and just throw it out there, or put it on the CR thing, on the Facebook group, or whatever you want to do. But anyway, no huge changes here other than the export and import ability. You can duplicate this if you want, and then they've moved like the e-steps per minute, or per millimeter over here. So if you've calibrated your e-steps, you know what that value is, put it in here. I have not done that with my Ender 3. It's 93 millimeters, 93 steps per millimeter, straight from the factory. It's printing beautifully. It ain't broke. I ain't fixing it. Leave it alone. On my CR10, it's like 103. I think on my Ender 2, I think it's like 101 or 102. So those two I've had to play with a little bit. So far with the Ender 3, with it being sort of brand new out of the box, it's fantastic. I haven't had to touch it. If you want to omit some of their specific, the raised touch specific G code, you can. It's not hurting it. It's not hurting any of your slices or anything by this stuff being in here, but you can see from the help text that the M1001, 2, and M2000 codes are in there. Your printer won't be able to read them. Doesn't matter if they're in the G code. So if you want to remove that stuff, tick the box and it'll remove it. Then you can, if you're putting in your own start and end G code, or if you want to do the posit height and filament change stuff like you would normally do in Cura, and you want to do it over in Ideamaker, go back a couple of videos, you can watch how to do that, where you basically clip the stuff out of Cura, you paste it in your Ideamaker G code, finding that M2000. Anyway, there's a video on that. So feel free to omit this if you want. You don't have to. It ain't hurting you. If you've got like a Creality type product, or pretty much anything else, Marlin firmware based, it ain't hurting you. So that's that. Filament settings, let's check there. Not a big change. They did add this ability to put in a brand name. So like I print with the most with like Inland, Xylotech, Bamtac, and 3D Solutech. Those are the four that I print with the most. So if I really wanted to, I could put in one filament setting per brand of, let's say, PLA or PETG or TPU that I use. I can change flow rates. I can change the price on it, or the cost. So that when it's done slicing my model and it gives me the cost, then I can have a better idea of what I might want to charge for something. Taking into account whatever your profit multiplier is that you want to be. Any notes you want to put in about this, and if you want to put in specific slicer settings related to that filament. So let's look. So keep this in mind. I'll try and stay on track. Override slice settings in template. Here's what you would do here. Discard. So when you go to slice something, you notice, right, you have your group and layer settings here, and so you can do something at the group level, meaning at sort of at this print level, or at a per layer level, right? So this is the per layer is where you can like change if you want to go from like a the bottom portion I want to do a 0.2, then if I get here I want to do a 0.1, and then I'm back to a point, whatever. So sort of multiple layer layer height changes or temperature changes or part cooling changes. So like if you're doing wood filament and you kind of wanted to give it that cool, you know, wood grainy look, and you wanted to change temperatures every 5 or 15 layers, you can do that here. So anyway, your per group layer stuff here, where you have the ability to change any one of these, your layer heights, your extruders, your infill, your cooling, anything that you might do related to slice, you can actually back those off, and you can do it as part of your filament. So if you had something special, but let's say ABS, or like let's say if this was wood PLA or that marble PLA stuff or whatever, and you wanted to make sure that that particular filament setting for this brand of filament, you always ran it at 220, or you always ran it with only a 20% fan, or no matter what your slicing template said, whatever you had here would always overrule that. So if this was ABS and you had to have your bed at 110 or 100, whatever, you could put that here, and no matter what you had in your slicing template, if you screwed up and left it at 50, well, your filament template would override that setting, and it would bring it up to 110. So anyway, kind of slick. I don't know that I'll ever use it, but it's a good option to have. Discard. So let's go over to the slicing settings. Here are the big ones that they've sort of put in and changed. I really like. So print shells in optimal order. So by default, printing inside out. All right. So inside shells to outside shells. If you have this ticked as a time-saving measure to try and reduce the amount of time, it may change that slightly. And I don't know what algorithm they use, but there are some areas of your print. So let's talk about the hand, right? Let's talk about the hand, where maybe when it gets to the index finger, it goes outside in, and when it gets here, it does inside out, and blah, blah. Now I've done this. I've printed parts with both of this option on and off. I haven't noticed a change in quality. I've noticed a change in print time to the good side, being a little bit shorter. So to me, if you can print something shorter with the same amount of quality, you just put money in your pocket. So that's good, but again, it's individual results may vary. Side effects may include. So do a couple test prints, dude. Okay. The only other thing that I know that they've added with this particular one, so they've always had the option here to do your layer start points. So I like to do a fixed seam. I like to put it in a certain location, like usually at the middle and the back of my bed. But now they've added this place seam on a corner, like a reflex corner or a convex corner or a reflex corner. So you can say, pick a corner, inside or outside, put baby in a corner, I don't care, or pick an inside or outside corner, or none. So this is an and operation. So if you have this on and this on, it's going to do both, right? So anyway, that's a cool new feature. Print parts in the same order for each layer. So this is a renamed feature. This was print parts in sequential order. Let me explain this to you. You got your print bed, and let's say you want to put multiple parts down. Whatever order you put the parts down on your bed is the order it's going to print it in. So naively, for a long time, I thought instinctively that it would print in, let's say, a clockwise, let's see, opposite for you. So a clockwise rotation, because that was the most optimal from the start of the home around the bed and print order. No, it was doing it in the way that, so if you stuck a part here and said duplicate it, put 5 down and put bang, 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 then it would jump all over the bed and print it in sequential order, because that's the order they put in. So what that allows you to do is, put a part down on the bed, put a part down on the bed, put it in the order that you want those parts to print at, and it'll do a layer and a layer and a layer and a layer and move around. So it's a cool feature when you know how it's used. So anyway, I use this a lot. I don't use these other two little supplemental feature tweaks, I like to call them. Minimal segment length, and I haven't had a need for them. I don't know what they're for. I can guess, but they're, to me, they're probably exceptions and corner cases. And I'll play with those a little bit. I'll make that commitment. I'll play with those and figure out what the hell they mean. So not a lot of changes on here. They've added this, so coasting I think was in the last release, but then they've added a apply coasting on grid infill and line fill. I won't use this checkbox. I will use coasting. I do a 0.1. I couple that with an extra restart amount of a negative amount, like a negative negative 0.2 or negative 0.25 or 3 or something like that. So that's cool. This is the travel lines. So if you were printing keychains, you were printing emblems, and you were frustrated because you had this big fat travel mark running across a nice cosmetic surface, this was the cause. Because even though you enabled retraction, if you mouse over, so your Z-hop at retraction, the nozzle will lift from the surface of the nozzle during a retraction. Well, it retracts either on a, it would typically only retract at the end of a travel move, right? So anyway, without getting into a lot of explanation, because I could spend some time on how this was a pet peeve, but it's not anymore. So in general, if you add Z-hop to your parts, you're going to add stringing to your parts. If you have a finger or hand type thing and you Z-hop, right? So you're printing a thumb and you come up, you're actually pulling a little string with you and you're bringing it over here. And so that's where you get, you know, you could have some extra stringing in your print. So if you turn Z-hop off by default, you will reduce stringing because it's basically stopping, snapping that line off and moving real fast to the next spot, not leaving a string. Now if you have slow travel moves or if you have Z-hop turned on, you're going to have strings. So I only do this Z-hop only at solid parts. So again, here's my flat keychain, emblem, whatever. Cosmetic surface on the bed, cosmetic surface on the top. It will Z-hop, so you're not leaving a big fat travel mark right through the middle of that. So this is a great feature. This is one of my huge pet peeves about them, about this software, and the one thing that always made me go back to either Kira or S3D, because they had those features to not leave a big fat travel mark in your nice cosmetic surface. So with this now, that I in the last month and a half, I haven't had a need to use anything other than Ideamaker. So anyway, kudos. They fixed it. They fixed it, finally. No big changes on Infill. I think they've added honeycomb and maybe cubic in this release. A lot of my prints I don't do with any Infill. I specifically pick stuff where I don't have to do Infill because it saves time, like a lot of stuff I sell on Etsy and eBay and stuff like that. I don't have a need to do it. Now if I'm doing prototyping or some of my prototyping parts or my design work that requires it, then I will do it. I have printed some pretty cool translucent parts with this honeycomb Infill, and it looks super cool. So anyway, not a lot of changes here, but it's I'm not exact. So this was a funny one. I think this is a, look at this. Use gap filling for fouled solid fill parts. I know what the fuck that means. Sorry for the bad words. So if you have on your other tab, you know, as far as filling fill gaps in your shells, this works in conjunction with that. So I think it actually says that this function will work with both the option and fill gaps in shells are checked. So it does the same thing. So yeah, clearly a misspelling there. Pretty funny. I might screenshot it and send it to him. I might not though. Not that big a deal. Not hurting anything. But support, not a lot of changes in support. I've noticed that my support is maybe, and I don't know what they've changed or what they've done because my settings haven't changed. All the settings that I have here are normal, the same ones from the last release. And I've printed a couple of my prototyping jobs, and I've had to do build plate supports and in-part supports, and they've come off really nice and easily without a lot of scarring. So if you want to screenshot this and set your stuff up, feel free. Not a lot of changes in platform editions. I'm not gonna cover that. You can play with that on your own. There's nothing huge there. On cooling, the only major change was this blip fan to 100% when starting at a low speed. So if you're doing something with like PETG or ABS or TPU where you have a slow or fan speed like 10% or 20%, if you have a cheap fan like I do on my little Ender 2, my part cooling fan, it is PWM, but if you start at a low number, it won't turn on. Like I'll see the control box at 20, and until I give it a flick, it won't start turning. So this will blip it up to 100% first, and then dial it back down to 20, and therefore the fan keeps rolling. So that's a cool feature. I think S3D already had that. I think anyway, it's there now. Temp, not a lot of changes. They talk about this inactive extruder. So if you have a machine with multiple extruders, like maybe like a CRX or something like that, then you can better tune the behavior of the secondary nozzle. Advanced, nothing big here other than, and I don't think was here in a previous release, I just didn't talk about it, but this override filament settings. So I use this basic PLA template most of the time, and I'll just tweak it like if I'm using PETG or TPU for a one-off. And so like TPU I know will run at 110% flow rate versus 100% flow rate. So I'll tell us to override my filament settings this time. And so I'll bump this up to like 110 if I'm using TPU. If you uncheck it, it doesn't do nothing. On the ooze, so avoid retraction inside models, they've already had this. They've coupled this with enable retraction at bottom and top of models. So this is in conjunction, you can use this, not required, but you can use this in conjunction with the Z-hop only at solid parts. So not only is it Z-hopping while traveling, but it's retracting while traveling, which is good because then it's not inadvertently, laying a snail trail of ooze down in your first layer for you just to impregnate with your next layer. So, yeah, use it. I've used it both ways, and haven't noticed a big difference. The biggest difference being there's no travel line, which is all I really care about. No other big changes here on the other tab. No huge changes here. The bridging stuff is all about the same. They added a few more features down here, but as far as this allow filling gaps using a single extrusion filling, fill gaps in shells, which is great. So if you're laying down and you like it, so I use a 0.6 nozzle, so I get really good. I print most of my stuff at 0.2. So if I can print something 33% faster over a 0.4 nozzle and get the same amount of quality in the Z, I'm gonna frickin' do it. And if I do have a gap in a shell that I might need some extra, then check that and it'll dip some filament in there. I wanted to, so that's all the main changes. I just wanted to point out one quick thing here. Check thin wall, single extrusion width. So if this is checked, and again you can tweak these little knobs here to change it, but just humor me. So if I slice this model, pay close attention to this F right here when this guy's done. Come on. Move the mouse real fast. See, it goes faster. Totally fake news. So you can see in the F here, lots of nastiness. So you've got this funky corner here. You've got all these little blips and blobs inside. So that is the software trying to make up for something it thinks is a deficiency in my model. How dare it? And it's trying to compensate for it by sticking some extra filament in there to fill a gap, maybe. I'm not sure. But it looks horrendous. And I printed it that way, and I didn't really notice that. And boy, I regret it because I just had to reprint it. So look what happens when we go turn that little checkbox off. So this one, thin wall, right? So we're talking about thin wall behavior. So we already know that wall back there was a thin wall. And this is checked to sort of compensate for a thin wall being present. So let's slice this thing. Here we go. So now let's take a quick look. So all gone. Nice and smooth. So something about that feature. So again, I mean, you can see it's a thin wall. I mean, it's actually got two walls there. So I think I had a couple of things, a couple of features turned on that maybe they were fighting. And one of them won. I'm not clear who, but they were throwing a bunch of crap at my print, and so I've noticed that a couple times. I'll notice it a lot on where I have threads on a thin wall. Either the threads will be missing, and it always seems to be that little check thin walls feature that is the culprit. And when I turn that dude off, he goes away. So now I just leave him off unless I see something funky in the print, then I'll go turn it back on. So that's the bulk of it. I wish I had one of these printed out to show you, but I thought maybe what we'll do is I'll show you this. Sorry, I gotta blow up. So this is the no travel line. Oops, where we go? Thingy here. So you can see this was a bottom down. There are no travel lines in that. All you see is layer lines. First layer is beautiful, goes down right onto the mirror, nice and reflective. Same thing on this side. So this is Ideamaker. Before this version, you wouldn't have been able to do that without seeing travel lines. So with that little Z-hop on solid parts, that's what you get. Let me get my big fat face out of here. Oh my god. So anyway, there you go. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. I'll have more videos soon. Probably line. I don't know. There's more features to do, and I have plenty of Fusion stuff to do. And it's Christmas break, so I'll get something. Thanks. Thumbs up. Subscribe. That'd be great. Do that. Thumbs up and subscribe. I'll do some more.